Hello, and thank you for clicking on this video. Before the video starts, I need you to do two things to help this channel grow. One is subscribe down below, and the second is like this video and share it with anybody that you want to spread MMA news to, whether it's family, friends, anybody. I always appreciate your support. And now let's get to the video. Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 35. In this episode, I will be reviewing UFC 286, and also I will be previewing this weekend's card, UFC on ESPN, Vera vs. Sandhagen. That is going to be a beautifully violent main event. Ring that bell! All right, let's get started with UFC 286. This took place at the O2 Arena in London, England. What a crowd that was. What an atmosphere that they created. I mean, it was very, very fun to watch. Just to see the crowd and just their enthusiasm bleed through the screen. So let's get started with some of these fights that I want to highlight. We had a women's flyweight bout. We had Juliana Miller taking on Veronica Hardy, and Veronica Hardy gets the decision victory. She was out of action for, I believe, 3 years, so to get back in here and to get a victory, that is a huge accomplishment for her. So congratulations on that victory. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Jai Herbert taking on Ludok Klein, and unfortunately, this fight ended in a draw. So who knows? Maybe they'll run this fight back. But yeah, unfortunate end, to this fight. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Joanne Wood taking on Luana Carolina, and Joanne Wood gets to the decision victory. I just figured that she was going to win this fight because of, her past high-level competition, against, Carolina and kind of who she has faced. So, I expected Joanne Wood to win. The women's flyweight division is, ever since Valentina lost the belt, anybody, is now, vying for that contender spot after they, rematch. So we'll see what happens with Joanne Wood. Moving on, we had a flyweight bout. We had Jake Hadley taking on Malcolm Gordon, and Jake Hadley gets it done in just a little over a minute in the first round. A body shot, made Gordon just collapse to the ground, and Hadley finishes the fight with ground and pound. So very impressive performance from Jake Hadley. Moving on, we had a middleweight bout. We had Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Dusko Tvrkic, and unfortunately, Dusko Tvrkic, he went to step out of the clinch position, and his knee it seemed like he tore something in his knee, went immediately down, and the ref called the fight. So an unfortunate end to this fight. Christian Leroy Duncan gets the TKO victory in his debut. Unfortunately, that's not the way he wanted to win, but it is a win for Duncan. Moving on, we had a featherweight bout. We had Laron Murphy taking on Gabriel Santos, and Laron Murphy gets the decision victory. Big win for him. Moving on, we had Muhammad Makaev taking on Jafalo Filio in a flyweight bout. And Muhammad Makaev, I don't know how he did not tap to that knee bar that he got caught in. Apparently his knee was cracking, and that is just brutal to hear. After the fight, his knee was super swollen. But after he gets out of that grueling knee bar that he just would not tap to, he gets his own submission in the third round. Very impressive win. He showed his toughness out there, and again, he just he finished off with his own submission, which was also very impressive. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Sam Patterson taking on Yanel Ashmuzos, I believe that's how you say his last name. I apologize if I butchered it. But Ashmun gets the vicious knockout. It seemed like he clipped Patterson while he was falling back and hit him right in the top of his temple. And he was out. In hindsight, definitely was a late stoppage. But, Patterson, in the moment, it seemed like he was kind of trying to get up or fight back, but seemed like he was just kind of getting, put in and out of consciousness. And unfortunately, after the fight, he would not, he just could not accept that the fight was over. And unfortunately, he was trying to fight Mark Goddard, and his coach had to come in and tell him that the fight was over. That's just one of those moments where, it's just it reminds you of how brutal this sport is. And I just hope Sam Patterson can recover, from this knockout, because when you act like that, at the end and you just can't accept that the fight ended, that's obviously a sign of heavy brain trauma. So I just hope that he gets taken care of and gets all the tests that he needs, because that was brutal, and it was not fun to watch him try to fight out of the clinch with Mark Goddard. It was really sad, unfortunately, but that's the game that is played in MMA. And, unfortunately, brutal things just happen. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Chris Duncan taking on Omar Morales, and Chris Duncan gets the decision victory. Moving on, we had a featherweight bout. We had Jack Shore taking on Makwan Amakakani, and Jack Shore gets the submission victory in the second round. I believe this was Jack Shore's featherweight debut, so he looked pretty good in this fight and in his new weight class. Moving on to the main card, we had a middleweight bout. We had Marvin Vettori taking on Roman Dolidze, and Marvin Vettori gets the decision victory. Marvin Vettori is just a very, just all-around really good mixed martial artist. I really like how he started utilizing his kicks more. I believe the announcer said that he went to Tiger Muay Thai, I believe, and they taught him how to kick, and he was kicking that front leg of Roman Dolidze a lot in this fight. Those kicks added into Marvin Vettori's game, it's going to make him much more dangerous. And, who knows in this middleweight division, we're still waiting on that Pereira-Izzy fight. So whoever, wins that, if Pereira wins, maybe Vettori, I can definitely see Vettori winning against Pereira, but, we got to get to the Pereira-Izzy fight first. That's not too long from now. So we will see where this middleweight division goes. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Jennifer Maia taking on Casey O'Neill, and Jennifer Maia gets the decision victory. She looked really sharp. Her boxing was on point. She was giving Casey O'Neill a lot of trouble in the stand-up, which I was not personally anticipating, but, Jennifer Maia definitely, made it a point to work on her boxing. Casey O'Neill, she was coming off of a long layoff because of injuries, so I expect her to bounce back in her next fight. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Gunnar Nelson taking on Brian Barberena. Brian Barberena took this fight on short notice. Gunnar Nelson, once he took Brian Barberena to the ground, Nelson just had his way with him and ended up submitting him in the first round. Gunnar Nelson, a real slick armbar submission, I believe he got. Great win for Gunnar Nelson. Moving on to the co-main event, we had a lightweight bout. We had Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev, and Justin Gaethje gets the decision victory. Fiziev's face was bloodied and battered and cut in all kinds of places after this fight. Justin Gaethje didn't have a scratch on him. It was one-way traffic in that sense, but Justin Gaethje, he found his jab, and Fiziev couldn't really get his offense going. Justin Gaethje, was walking him down. So Fiziev is probably not really used to that. And, Gaethje, showed that, he still belongs in the lightweight title talk. So we'll see what happens with Justin Gaethje next. Now, moving on to the main event, we had the welterweight bout. The champion Leon Edwards taking on the former champ and the challenger Kamaru Usman. And Leon Edwards gets the decision victory over Kamaru Usman. And the trilogy is finally put to rest. In my own personal scorecards, I had Leon Edwards winning round 1. I had Usman winning round 2. And in round 3, that was a tie because of the point deduction taken away. Leon Edwards, he got a point deducted because he grabbed the fence, which negated Usman's takedown. It was pretty blatant. He deserved to get that point taken away. So the third round was a 9-9 for me. But then Leon Edwards, he won the 4th and the 5th round on my scorecards. And the final score on my scorecards was Edwards 48 to Usman 46. And I feel like a lot of people had that same scorecard. It could have gotten interesting after that fence grab if Usman, was able to win round 4. Round 5 would have been probably way different because it could have been a draw. I was a little nervous that it could have been a draw, but, Edwards wins those last 2 rounds, and, he is and still. So Leon Edwards, it seems like Colby Covington is next in line. Even though he hasn't fought in, a decent amount of time. His last fight was against Jorge Masvidal. And then with the whole Masvidal jumping Covington in public, he's been silent for a while. And then all of a sudden, he shows up as the backup fighter for this fight. He weighs in, he makes weight. Colby Covington is back talking on the internet. He's attacked a lot of people since he came out, including John Anik and, also Belal Muhammad. He's been, really starting beef with Belal Muhammad for whatever reason, because, Belal Muhammad has called, for his shot to get a title shot. He definitely, if you're looking at, recent, trends, Covington's coming off of 1 win, and Belal Muhammad, he's on a multi-fight win streak. He had a no contest against Leon Edwards. So, if we're looking at, who deserves it by, the fight streaks, it's definitely Belal Muhammad. He deserves it. But again, this is a business. And, the UFC is going to look to see who can make them the most money, who can sell the most pay-per-views. And, they seem to think that, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, that seems like it's going to be their move. I guess they feel like that will be, the right move financially. But, if I'm Belal Muhammad, I'm pretty pissed. I think he is pissed. They're talking about him going against Shavkat Ramakov. That dude is a killer. He's undefeated. It doesn't really make sense to me that Belal Muhammad has to fight backwards after, his big win streak is coming off of a standing TKO win against a really high-level wrestler in Sean Brady. And I didn't think that he was going to win against Sean Brady, but, he went out there and he got the finish, which, Muhammad does not get a lot of finishes. So, I don't know why the UFC seems to be screwing him a little bit, but, that is the business side of MMA. And that's going to do it for this coverage of UFC 286. Now let's get to this weekend's card. UFC on ESPN, Vera versus Sandhagen. Let's start in the prelims. We have a women's bantamweight bout. We got Haley Cowan taking on Tamirez Vidal. And Haley Cowan was supposed to fight, I believe it was either UFC 286 or the event before that, but I believe she fell ill. So she is finally going to make her UFC debut, on this card. She's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, the women's bantamweight division. It's always good to, have some fresh blood in the division. So let's see how Haley Cowan does. Moving on, we got a lightweight bout. We got Manuel Torres taking on Trey Ogden. We have a flyweight bout. We got CJ Vergara taking on Daniel De Silva. We got a welterweight bout. We got Trevin Giles taking on Preston Parsons. We have a featherweight bout. We got Steven Peterson taking on Lucas Alexander. Steven Peterson is always a fun, action-packed fighter in the featherweight division. And speaking of action-packed, we have a featherweight bout. We got Daniel Pereira taking on Tucker Lutz. This should be a fun fight. Daniel Pereira, I believe he has a 100 finish percentage. And his record speaks for itself. 27 wins, 14 losses, and 3 no contest. So this guy has seen a lot of stuff in his career. Moving on to the main card. Kicking it off, we got a middleweight bout. We got Chidi Njokuani taking on Albert Derive. Chidi Njokuani coming off of an exciting fight against Gregory Rodriguez. He did not win that fight, but man, that was one hell of a fight. Moving on, we got a flyweight bout. We have Alex Perez, the former title challenger, taking on Manel Cape. This is Manel Cape. He's been working his way up in this flyweight division. So if he gets this win, I believe Alex Perez, he is the number 6 ranked, UFC flyweight. Manel Cape right now, he can jump into that top 6 with an impressive win over Perez. Moving on, we got a women's flyweight bout. We have Andrea Lee taking on Macy Barber. Macy Barber, obviously, she's still only 24. Let's see what she can do, and let's see, how her MMA, game has evolved. Moving on, we have a featherweight bout. We got Nate Landwehr taking on Austin Lingo. If you have not watched Nate Landwehr, if you did not watch his last fight, please go watch it. It was an insane fight. Entertainment level was through the roof of that fight. Maybe not the most technically sound fight for both fighters, but Nate Landwehr put on a show. And, he's very entertaining, very action-packed. He's a very forward-moving guy. He is not afraid to swing at you. I'll just put it that way. So this fight is going to be a dog fight. Moving on, in the co-main event, we have a women's bantamweight matchup. We have the former UFC bantamweight champ, Holly Holm, taking on Yana Santos. This is Yana Santos' first fight since she had her baby. So congratulations to her on just competing again. Many people overlook when women give birth to children in sports and in MMA. It takes such a long time and so much work to bring their bodies back to their athletic their athletic prime, I guess I would say. Having a baby is just such a body altering experience. And Yana Santos has my utmost respect. All of the women in MMA and in sports in general, they all have my respect. When it comes to that, because again, having a baby, it changes your body, it changes everything about you. So again, congratulations to her on getting back to that point where she can compete again. It must have been a long, long road. And of course, we have Holly Holm. She just signed a new 6-fight deal. She's 41 years old, but it seems like she's going to be around, for a while. In her last fight, if you remember, Caitlin Vieira, funny thing, that was the first ever event covered on the KO podcast. It's in episode 1 if you want to go look at it. I personally am not going to go rewatch that episode because that was my first ever episode, and I'm sure it's a little tough to watch now. I'll just leave it at that. But Holly Holm, she did get screwed on the scorecards in that fight. So she really should be coming off of a win, but she's coming off of a loss. So it's going to be a very interesting co-main event. Moving on, in the main event of the evening, we have a bantamweight bout. We got Marlon Vera taking on Corey Sandhagen. Wow, this fight is going to be the personification of violence. Both of these fighters, they have a pretty nice highlight reel. I mean, if we just go and look at Corey Sandhagen, he has that flying knee knockout over Frankie Edgar. Yeah, that was one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. And then you look across the octagon, you got Marlon Vera, who has an insane highlight reel for a bantamweight. He also front kicked Frankie Edgar, into the shadow realm. He just knocked out Dominic Cruz. Marlon Vera is on a roll, and he continues to be rolling all the way to that bantamweight title shot. But, right now the bantamweight division is, waiting to see what happens with Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo. So once that fight is done, they got to give Marlon Vera a title shot at some point. I mean, he finishes a lot of his opponents. And again, this is the bantamweight class, so it's just even more impressive. I've become a huge Marlon Vera fan ever since I, watched him for the first time. I believe the first fight that I watched him in live was him versus Sean O'Malley. And, I definitely started to pay attention more after that fight. And who knows? Sugar Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera could face off again, and it could be, for a number one contender spot. So, that would be a fun fight. I would love to see Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera run that back. That would be a fun fight. But, Corey Sandhagen, of course, he fought Jan. He lost to Jan for the interim belt. In his last fight, Corey Sandhagen got the TKO, victory against Song Yadong. I mean, that was a brutal cut by Corey Sandhagen. Song Yadong. That cut was brutal, and it was right near his eye. So that's why they had to stop that fight in between rounds. But that brutal cut right near Song Yadong's eye, that was caused by a Sandhagen elbow. Sandhagen, he's got dangerous elbows, dangerous knees. And he throws a lot of kicks. Corey Sandhagen, he's very moving. He's always moving around the octagon. So this is gonna be a fun fight. I cannot wait to see this main event. I am so happy that this main event got moved to be in front of a live crowd. So it's gonna be amazing. These two men are gonna put on a very, very violent performance. And that is gonna do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. I recently just put up a link tree with all of the links to the podcast. So basically, the link tree, that link is in my Twitter bio, and I believe it's in my Instagram bio as well. So please go check out my link tree. That is where all of the channel's links are, including the website, the YouTube page, the Twitter, the Instagram, everything. And I'm probably going to put more links as I continue to create more platforms for this podcast. My goal is for it to be everywhere one day. So, I am working towards that each and every day for you guys. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.